All right, let's talk about everyone's favorite $242 million quarterback, Russell Wilson, who, again, I think is playing all right this season. It's such an interesting thing that has happened with Russell Wilson where, I think we all were wondering, okay, is he going to go back to playing like a superstar or is he going to continue sucking? And he's kind of split the difference a little bit. I think he's done some nice things. I think he's made some mistakes so far for Denver. So let's talk about both, starting off with this play where it's going to be zone coverage. The route you see on the screen, just a route going to get underneath the coverage. Nothing crazy. You do have another receiver on that side of the field running a deeper route to hopefully push some defenders further deep. But watch how when Wilson takes the snap, it's, you're going to see that pressure eventually starts to come, and there's a little bit of a window for Wilson to make this throw. I find it interesting how Wilson makes this throw. Watch how he's going to scramble out. He waits a little bit before making it, lets it get as open as possible, and it ends up getting dropped and nearly intercepted on that play. Kind of an interesting situation there. But as a whole, to me, this is a good play by Russell Wilson. Able to get outside the pocket, able to move around, which is what you like to see from him. Able to hit the open player. They traded a first-round pick to get Sean Payton to hopefully be able to help Russell Wilson. And so far, I would say it has worked. I would say he's starting to make those Russell Wilson plays again. Things are starting to go well. Now, the offense isn't often helping him out on that. I think that's been a real thing. I think that was an underrated aspect of last year was how often guys weren't getting open, and you can blame the coaching, you can blame the personnel, whatever. I know Sean Payton blames the coaching, but whatever it is, I think that was an aspect, and getting guys more open and just getting him kind of back into a groove has worked out. This plays another example of a positive by Russell Wilson, and if you're here for the negatives, don't worry, there's those coming too, but for now, positive. It's going to be, I always like these concepts. Sean Payton loves these concepts, part of why he's a good play caller, because they work. It's going to be a zone coverage play, and you have the one wide receiver on that side of the field running a go route. Okay, that's going to push the corner and the safety who are in that area further deep. That's how that's designed to work. So then when you have a tight end who's going to eventually run, not right away, but eventually going to run deep as well, sometimes just nobody covers him, but sometimes usually you'll get someone who's designed to cover the middle of the field, have to kind of stay further deep. Watch as Wilson is going to run this play action, and you get kind of a mismatch here. As a player who was not ready to cover down the field is now getting forced to do that. This is what you want to see have happen, and so this is good stuff by Sean Payton. On top of this, I would say this was an actively good throw from Russell Wilson. Again, the receiver, not able to make the play. It's a tough play. I'm not saying it wasn't. That's Adam Troutman on that one who, would have had to make a tough catch. Also, I do think, though, for Russell Wilson, sometimes you got to force your receiver to make a play, right? Sometimes you got to just put the ball in an area where your receiver can help you out. It just didn't work out that way. Now, going over to some negatives. Again, it's one of those things, though, where it's Russell Wilson's getting paid a lot of money. He is. And when you're getting paid this kind of money, it's not good enough to be good enough, right? It just isn't. You have to be able to really be awesome. You have to be awesome or you're not going to be totally successful. And this play, so the way it works is, they're currently lined up at their own 6-yard line or so. So you got to be careful, right? Because you're going to drop back into your own end zone. You have to be careful. It's a, zone coverage concept that they're going up against. And you see the way this play concept works for Denver. You have two receivers who are going to run deeper routes on the sideline. You might get one-on-one matchups. If you want to take one of those shots here, you potentially can. This is how you can get some 94-yard touchdowns, right? If you don't like that, you have 3 shorter routes that can all get open. Worth mentioning that you essentially have 5 blockers in on this play. Now, not exactly because you have 2 tight ends on each side of the field, both going to start off blocking edge rushers and then run out and run their routes, which is, I think, smart. Make sure that you give Wilson a little bit of extra time when you are backed up like this. Also worth mentioning, the Jets kind of saying, hey, Let's maybe take a little bit of a chance here. Let's run a blitz. They're going to have 5 players rush the quarterback here, which I also think is smart, right? Run a zone blitz. See if you can potentially fool Denver and get a safety here. Watch as Wilson's going to take the snap. He looks down the field right here. You have to make a decision, quite frankly. Wilson has to have a decision made. Down the field. Hey, you look at the safety, he's definitely shading towards the top of the screen, so you could throw towards the bottom of the screen if you want to take one of these deep shots. That's something you can do. Or underneath, there are 3 more shallow routes on this play. Wilson could put the ball in any one of those directions. I don't know how many yards they're all getting. There are a Jets player covering each one of those guys, but still, it's moving the ball down the field, giving you a little bit more room potentially. And even if it doesn't, you just don't have that much time left. Like I said, it's a blitz. You have to make a decision. Throw the ball away if you want to, but you have to do something. Russell Wilson doesn't. Russell Wilson stays there, eventually tries to throw the ball away as he's getting sacked, but it was too late at that point, and that's a rule of safety on that play. So that's just something Wilson has to be better of. Also, this play, this was, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't, I guess it was terrible. It's going to be, so the Jets, again, very good play calling that the Jets tend to have, where they'll play to a cover 2 zone a lot, but then they'll mix things up. Here, they're showing blitz. They have 6 defensive players rushing the pass, or looking like they could be rushing the passer. And so for Denver, what they're going to do on this play is they actually, no one else is going to be blocking. You just have the 5 offensive linemen. And so with the center blocking towards his left, that means towards the offense's right, you just have 2 offensive linemen, and there's 3 players who could be rushing the passer. And if that happens, what you do is you block inside to out. So you block closest towards the center to furthest away towards the center. And so because of that, Wilson's going to take the snap. Nobody picks up the player off the edge. You would probably like the halfback to pick that up. I don't know if that's Wilson's fault, if it's the halfback's fault, or if it's Sean Payton's fault. But regardless, you would like to see that get picked up, I think. But now Wilson is in trouble, going to have to scramble out. And again, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I talk about this with young players a lot, but it's like, got to minimize damage. This is a key spot in the game. They're trying to come back and win this football game. Wilson's going to scramble out, and he loses the football. It ends up getting scooped and scored for a touchdown the other way. That was the dagger, as they ended up losing that football game. So right here, I have over the cap up here. It's Russell Wilson's contract, and you see, okay, let's look at the dead money if they cut him. They cut him now, $107 million in dead money. Cut him next year, $85 million. The year after, $49 million. The cap hit's pretty tough. I mean, you're talking about a $50 million cap hit all the way until 2028 as it stands right now if you keep him on the roster. So for Russell Wilson, even if you're playing okay, obviously you have to play a little better than that to be competitive given what your contract is at. Now, these are pre-June 1st numbers. You go to post-June 1st numbers, it definitely gets better. But again, part of the issue is after June 1st, who are you going to be paying at that point? There's not really free agents left or anything like that. But still, if you can save that kind of money, you probably want to save that kind of money. Have a situation where you only have $40 million in dead cap actually seems like a pretty good situation here. There's also the trading scenario. Trade relatively similar. If you trade him right now, it's going to be around $82 million. Trade him next year, $68 million. But again, this might actually be the option, especially if you look at like a post June 1st trade. Now, keep in mind, the opposing team is going to be taking on a chunk of the money. So, will a team be willing to do that? That's the question. But to me, this actually might be a way out of it for Denver, is a trade scenario. Because, for the Denver Broncos, listen, obviously you would love for Russell Wilson to be good and to have a good quarterback and to have that just be the end of things. However, the reality is that you're probably not going to do a lot if you have the 15th best quarterback in football and you're paying him $55 million a year until he's 40. That's probably not going to go so well. But part of me does wonder if you work out some sort of scenario where, hey, you pay him $50 million for 1 year, you just have a bad year where you tank and rebuild and plan for the future, and maybe some team agrees to take on some of the money that's owed to him because, hey, he's playing well enough that, having the 15th best quarterback, if you're only paying him $20 million a year, that might not be such a bad thing. I wonder if there's some sort of workaround that way. And I do think Wilson's at least playing himself into position to hopefully just have some value, even if you're not getting anything of value with the trade itself, even if you're getting, swapping 7th round picks or whatever. If you can get someone to take on some of the contract, that might actually be the way out of this. As a whole, just a fascinating situation in my opinion. But yeah, that's kind of how I view Wilson. It's like, he's playing better for sure, but you're still looking up over the cap on his contract pretty frequently if you're a Broncos fan trying to figure out how to get out of this. I think it's more possible now, but it's still not looking great in my opinion. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.